Hello, welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that tries to answer a simple question for you. Should you spend your money at the cinemas or should you stay at home? Should you big screen or should you big stream?
Let's get ready to rumble!
My name is Tosin and I am the host of this show. And our flimsy way of figuring this out is by going to the cinema, watching a whole bunch of things, rating them out of 5, staying at home, watching a whole bunch of things, rating them out of 5, and seeing who wins this week. Joining me as always on the Isle of Wight is Sean Harris.
Hello.
Yep, Sean Harris, our resident horror movie, shall we say skeptic? horror movie skeptic. Yeah, and I think this week we might have some of that skepticism on full show. And it's also on the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
Yes, our literary agent who goes and sees anything that used to be a book but is now a film. But sometimes, you were about to say something, Sharon?
I am actually prepping because I have seen a trailer for this. So
Agent.
I thought I need to be prepared.
So, for those of you listening to us, Sharon is holding up a book called H is for Hawk, which I have just sort of seen is being turned into a film. So you saw there was a trailer for this and you went and got the book.
I went and got the book. I'm thinking I need to read that before. So So I should be finished, obviously, by the end of the next couple of days.
Essentially, you'll be finished before the film comes out.
Oh, absolutely. And I've literally just finished Project Hail Mary because, again, I thought, that's coming soon.
Yes, Project Hail Mary.
I read that. So I read that last week when I was with my mum, actually. I've sat there and I was reading Project Hail Mary.
I wonder if you're going to reread Wuthering Heights.
Just so I can get the screen. Read the book.
So, okay. Before I introduce a final person, I'll just say that if you have seen anything about the Emerald Fennel Wuthering Heights that's starring Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, which is coming to cinemas soon, and has it essentially, there's a certain corner of the internet, the literary internet, that is up in arms about this. And both Sharon and our final correspondent are part of that up in arms thing. They're part of the burn it with fire brigade. so with that, I will introduce our London correspondent, Holly Nesling.
Hello.
Yeah, Holly Nesling, who never. So I was going to say, our London correspondent, Holly Nesling, who never met a film that she did not want to give 1 star more than it actually deserves.
In which case, my plan to give Wuthering Heights 0 stars.
I think we better watch it, Toes, ourselves, so we can.
No, Sean. You know what I think is going to happen here. I think what's going to happen here is that we're going to go watch Wuthering Heights when it finally comes out. We are going to have to go watch Wuthering Heights as the two people who are the least au fait with the story of Wuthering Heights, or at least au fait with the Brontes. We're going to have to watch it. And we're going to come back and we're going to go, oh my God, I loved that. And Sharon and Holly will never speak to us again and it will be the end of the podcast. That's what's going to happen.
I just have to say it is a book about 2 sociopaths who are in love with each other, but in love with themselves and ruin the lives of everybody around them. It's not a great love story.
Yeah, it's destructive, it's abusive, it's just... And yes, all the words they use.
It's obviously a romance classic. I mean,
it's a romance. When I read a review that said, yes, they've really gone down the road of like whimsical costuming and like sort of quirky.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't a review. It was a review of the pictures of their costumes.
Pictures of it, yeah. And they talked about sort of like winking humour, and it was just like the Bronte sisters. Bless them, I love them all. They had no sense of humour whatsoever.
They were all depressed. So
I was just going to ask I was going to ask the girls, how do they rate the Laurence Olivier and is it Merle Oberon?
Merle Oberon.
That's my classic. Yeah. How does that rate in the?
Again, it's they've upped the romance and they've turned down the darkness of it.
Gotcha.
They're horrible people. They're really horrible people. As somebody said in a review, I only kept reading it to make sure they died.
When I read it, I was just like, well, hang on a minute. Because I'd seen a couple of films by that point. When I read it, I was thinking, this is only half of the book. Well, probably not even half of the book. Probably about the first third of the book is the only bit they ever make adaptations of. The second third, because it gets really messy.
Well,
with all the children and relations and everything.
I think there's a version of this story because this is one of those stories that just keeps getting made over and over again, and there's a version of it with Ralph Fiennes in it, I think, as Heathcliff.
Yep.
And I remember Yeah, I remember looking at that, and everything I've seen about Wuthering Heights just tells me this is depressing as hell. And I do not understand why people keep going back to it. I really don't. It's kind of like okay, Romeo and Juliet, you can kind of understand, or star-crossed lovers, all that kind of stuff. Wuthering Heights just seems depressing. I mean, everything about it looks depressing.
But they never include the bits like where he digs up her body and he's cuddling her corpse and things like that. It's like, that's the romantic bit. Yeah, you're hugging a corpse.
Sounds a bit like Saltburn.
That's what I was about to say. Exactly what I was about to say, Sean. I was about to say that means Emerald Fennell might be the right person because she did do something very similar in Saltburn, and she is directing this. So I think that if you worry that the Heathcliff digging up a dead body and cuddling it, I think we found the right director to give you that.
By the way, the 2011 film looks like it was probably better cast. Kaya K.S. Scodelario and James Howson as Heathcliff. So they've actually at least got their hair colour and skin colour correct. Because Heathcliff wasn't very white.
Okay, cool. Now let's move on because we're getting very close to reviewing a film that hasn't even been released yet.
And it's not come out yet.
It's like when I told you that people were up in arms, I was not joking. So let's kick off and talk about what it is we have seen in cinema. I usually go in one order. I'm going to go in reverse order this week because somebody's left the house. So Holly, what have you seen in cinemas this week?
Oh, yes, I have seen. I saw The Housemaid, but we've already reviewed it.
We've already reviewed it. So if we have some time at the end, you can give a riposte to Sean's review of The Housemaid and see what you thought. All right,
but I'm literally part of and can't remember.
Yes, Sharon. What do you think? What did you see in cinemas?
Yes, I last week had a bit of an odd week. So the last film I saw was, which we haven't reviewed yet, was a secret screening called Primate.
Yes, Primate. Sean has deliberately refused to talk about this until you were around. He's refused to talk about it. He's like, no, Sharon needs to be here, but he's given hints. He's given hints that his horror hatchet might come out there. Sean. So I just had an idea of a film where you have and it's a slasher movie, but Sean is the person who's walking around finding people who make all these horror movies and making them subjecting them to their own film. All right, but anyway, maybe I'll go write that. Sean, what have you seen in the cinemas?
Okay, so I've seen The Bone Temple.
Yes, 28 years later.
Bone Temple. Obviously, Primate with Sharon from last week, and I also went to see David Lynch film called Blue Velvet, which I hadn't seen, and I didn't realise it was like probably 1986, something like that.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen it for years, but Dennis Hopper at his most extreme.
Yeah, I've never seen it, and I know about that scene.
Yes,
I've never seen Blue Velvet. I know about Dennis Hopper and Blue Velvet. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So, and I have seen Bone Temple 20 years later, and a film called The Voice of Hind, Rajab, which is. I'll talk about it when we get there. Okay, how about on TV? What have we seen on TV? Sean, give me.
Okay, well, I watched The Tank the other day. I also saw a film called Fieldpost. I don't think we've reviewed that, have we?
I've never even heard of it. What was the first thing you said that you watched the other day?
What I did last week, I did The Tank, didn't I?
Hey, The Tank, yes, you said The
Tank.
Yeah.
So obviously it was on recommendations that, like you get there.
So you watched the film, they said certain, World War II Germany. You might
exactly right, yeah.
All right, cool. So something called Fieldpost. And Sharon, how about you?
I haven't seen anything at all since the last. I think I've got one again. It's like it's been in my back pocket. Just called The Salt Path Scandal. It's a documentary.
Yes, the documentary. Yeah. That. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Oh, all right. Maybe. Okay. We'll see. Holly, what have you seen?
Well, it's also in my back pocket, but I've also seen Salt Path Scandal.
Okay.
I have also seen Agatha Christie's Seven Dials and Runaway, the latest Harlan Coben.
The latest Harlan Coben. Run from it. You can't avoid it.
Run away. Yeah.
I can review it very quickly.
Okay. No. Everything requires its own space. Which reminds me, I don't think we ever properly reviewed Freaky Tales. Well, did we? I don't know. I'll have a look back through, but if not, that'll be something worth, because somebody who was in Freaky Tales got in touch with us on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes. Sean, I don't think I told you this, but there was a bit where we were talking a little bit about Freaky Tales. I'm not sure whether we gave Freaky Tales a full review, but we spoke about Freaky Tales a little bit while we're talking about something else. We're talking about how many things Pedro Pascal was in 2025.
Yes. Right.
And somebody got in touch with us on Instagram who was in Freaky Tales. They were
Wow.
Yeah, the punk scene, the first bit of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody who was actually in that scene, I was one of the punks in the scene, got in touch with us on Instagram and was like, and because I hadn't seen Freaky Tales yet, so the message didn't really make much sense to me. And they were like, oh yeah, Pedro's great because blah, 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 from the blah, blah, blah punk. And I was like, what are you on about? And then I watched the film, and as I was watching the film and looking at the title, I was like, that name looks familiar. Went back to Instagram. Oh, that's the guy!
Wow. Wow.
I was like,
That's good.
That's the guy, yeah. So I was still going to get back in touch with him. All right, cool. So let us go. I think we're going to go Bone Temple Primate, Voice of Hind, Rajab, because that's what we have. And then Seven Dials, Fieldpost, and The Salt Path Scandal. Let's go. Right, let's kick off first. Then let's kick off with The Bone Temple. Now, to give its full title, 28 years later, The Bone Temple. So 28 years later, I feel like this is one of those films that if you don't know what 28 years later is, it's a bit weird to explain. Okay, it's like, Danny Boyle made a film called 28 Days Later ages ago. It was a big thing. It's a zombie or infected, if you want to go with thing, but it was like a new take on the zombie movies. There was a film called 28 Weeks Later that he wasn't involved with that was made as a sequel. And then now he's come back with Alex Garland, the original writer of the film, to make 28 Years Later. They made that last year. But they planned a trilogy. They planned 3 films. And so this is the second film in that trilogy, and they were waiting to see if they would get to make a third. They have greenlit the third, and this second one is directed by Nia DaCosta. So still written by Alex Garland, not directed by Danny Boyle, directed by Nia DaCosta, who picks up very closely after the end of the first film. So you still have this whole thing where Britain is overrun with infected by the rage virus. They're very like zombies. If they touch you, if they bite you, you become one of them. But they're quick and they run around and all that kind of stuff. And there's these little pockets of humankind, of people who haven't been infected, who are still trying to figure out a way of living in this whole thing. In this film, you don't really get to see much of the settlement you saw in the first film. This focuses a lot more on Spike, who left the settlement in the first film and went into the mainland to sort of like try and fend for himself. And he is beginning to find that it might be a little bit scarier than you would expect a 13-year-old person to be. I remember when we reviewed 28 Years Later, we all had various issues with the character of Spike, and we had various issues with the film itself. And we had like various logic things and fails, and I think Sharon and Holly both wanted the kid to get eaten by a zombie because he was a very, very self-centered idiot. And in this film, I think it's fair to say he kind of gets a little bit of a comeuppance, because right from the word go, when the situations that he's in, you're like, yeah, oh, good lord. And you get to meet more Jack O'Connell, who was introduced at the end of the first film as Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal, who is this self-appointed kind of, I don't know, apocalyptic pope, you would call satanic apocalyptic pope, who thinks that it's his job to go around and free humans from this thing by killing them and all that with him. And he has this whole messed up mythology he's built around himself about his fist, and how his fist has 7 fingers, and his father is Saint Nick, who was actually the devil, who has sent him to do this whole thing. And he has these acolytes that follow him around, but they're beginning to wonder, is this guy actually off his rocker, or does he actually have anything to say? And you still have Ralph Fiennes knocking about from the first film, playing Dr. Kelson. And I have to say, Ralph Fiennes, there's scenes in this where you just think Ralph Fiennes is having the time of his life.
I'd love to do
He's having the time of his life.
I was trying to practice some of those moves.
Oh my, the Iron Maiden bit. The Iron Maiden bit is just kind of like, you look at Ralph Fiennes and you're like, sometimes you think, well, why did they agree to do this? You see that scene, the scene that Sean has in the background, and you go, this is exactly why Ralph Fiennes agreed to do this. This is exactly why he agreed to do this. And so, but in the last film, there was this thing introduced about alphas, about how the rage virus infected some people differently, and some of them grew massive and huge, and there was this. And there's a very interesting story that they have between Ralph Fiennes and this alpha called Samson, and what goes on there, and what he's trying to find out, and what he's trying to think about because I think the Dr. Kelson character is a bit different, because he builds the Bone Temple of the thing, and in the first one people thought that he was some weird psycho, but he is kind of like, I think he's probably the most compassionate character that you would find in the whole thing, and he has compassion not just for humans, but he has a compassion for the infected. He has compassion, and he keeps trying to think about, look, what can we do here and everything. And the storyline between him and Samson, I thought, was actually really, really good. There's essentially two storylines. There's Dr. Kelson and Samson, and then there's the Jimmies and what they're going to do. And then these two storylines sort of like collide, and it's about what happens when those two things collide. Now, that being said, Sean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, okay. Well, this was totally different from the 28 Years one, the first movie. I thought totally different, come at it from a totally different angle. And
it's a lot smaller in scope. It's really pretty much those two storylines, and then those two storylines come into to meet. Yeah.
But I thought when the first meeting with the Jimmies and the Doctor was where and the excuse he used. I thought, okay, I can. Which I thought was quite good, really, rather than you have to wait here and the way he sort of handled that situation, I thought that was a really good thing. And you're right, the 666 was just like
Iron Maiden bit. Iron Maiden Mark of the Beast.
That should be a video on Top of the Pops or something. So I found this. I enjoyed this more than I did the
first one.
The first one, definitely. And you're exactly right. He had total compassion, didn't he?
Yeah.
Real compassion, and he became more of a fuller character in this, I think.
Yes.
It was very violent, wasn't it? It's very, especially
it is quite violent. I mean, the Jimmies, the Jimmies, they leave you in no doubt as to how dangerous the Jimmies are.
Yeah,
they leave you absolutely no doubt about how dangerous the Jimmies are. Yeah,
but again, I didn't when it came to the acting, I didn't think I don't know. There's something about the lad, what I mean, that it just doesn't. I don't know. He didn't convince me. He's not convincing, and I think he was a bit of a letdown. I don't know. It's difficult to explain.
I think the thing is, he has to spend all this film being scared. So essentially, this.
Yeah, but he didn't strike. To me, he was like he was trying to be scared, and he didn't convince me he was scared. He was trying to be scared, but
I think my take on what you're saying is he had one expression for being scared.
Yeah.
And that expression just kept happening over and over and over again for being scared, because Spike isn't really the key. He's not the lead character of this film. I mean, if you're going to ask who the lead character of this film is, arguably it's Samson. Arguably it's Samson. Arguably it's Dr. Kelson. It might be a three-hander between Samson, Dr. Kelson, and Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal, played by Jack O'Connell, who is brilliant. And I mean, with this and Sinners, I mean, the guy is good at playing psychos.
Really is, isn't it?
That's all I can say. There's some symbolism in it, because he walks around with like an upside down cross on his neck. I mean, and there's some very, very, very blatant, obvious symbolism with his final line in the film.
Oh, for sure.
Not held about that.
Yeah. But honestly, like, there's some very. It's kind of like you're kind of like, what are they saying here? Are they saying anything? Did they just chuck that in there because it was fun? I don't know. But it's, so I agree with you in that I go on with this a lot more than I did the first one. And I think because the first one is building this whole new world and everything like that. This film I think just goes, okay, fine, you already got the world from the last one. Yeah. And I feel like they went going on to Sean's sort of like jumps of logic or things that just wouldn't happen. There were not that many, I don't think.
That many.
Like, I remember that there was a big one that had to do with gasoline in the first one that really, I was like, wait, hang on a second, what the heck? Yeah. But in this one, I think because it's a smaller story, it's just really about some of the best scenes are people sat down talking. There's one scene between Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal and Dr. Kelson that's just really, really great. When they just sat down. Yeah, there's a lot of scenes between Dr. Kelson and Samson that are actually kind of touching.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
There's ones. I mean, there is, and I don't feel like. I mean, there is. I'm trying to say this without giving any spoilers, Sean.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Let me put it this way. This is one of the best. I don't think I've ever seen a film where somebody has uttered one word, and that one word is like you go, oh. And there's a bit where somebody utters one word and you're like, oh, wow. So all in all, I mean, I personally would give it, I'll give it a 4. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd probably give it, for me, it'd probably be a 3.25.
3.25. So Sharon, just so you know, we've adopted your thing. So And now what we're doing is that you have your full numbers, your whole integers, if you will, but then there's graduations of 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 in between the numbers. So we have adopted that because we think that's good. So that's what I would say. And okay, and Sean, there is a other question that we've added. We added this last week, Sharon. When we see something in the cinema, do we think that you should watch this in the cinemas, or do we think you should wait to see this on streaming? So, Sean, what do you think? Watch The Bone Temple in cinemas?
Cinema, purely for the Number of the Beast track. I mean that in itself is pretty amazing.
Okay, cool. I would say, I was watching that going. I think Sean's gonna love this.
I did, yeah. You know me so well, Tony.
If nothing else, Sean's gonna love this scene. And I would say watch it in cinemas. I would say watch it in cinemas as well. Because I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that's on there that's just on the big screen. And also, if you don't watch it in cinemas, you do not get to see Samson in his full naked glory in the biggest screen possible. Yeah, and let's just say everything about Samson is big. So now, okay, and now let's go over to Netflix and Friends, and let us talk. We're going to talk Seven Dials on Netflix. So, Holly, tell us about Seven Dials on Netflix. All I know is Agatha Christie, lesser known than Agatha Christie, starring Mia McKenna Bruce.
Yes, so it is, as you say, a lesser-known Agatha Christie, which was, to the best of my knowledge, first adapted for screen in the early 1980s, and it begins with a sort of slightly mystifying circumstance of what's his face who plays Jorah Mormont in Game of Thrones.
Ian Glenn.
Thank you very much. Having an unfortunate let's call it accident, and then
we know that there has to be a dead body in Agatha Christie. There has to be a dead body.
Yes. Well, he gets. I'll give a brief spoiler as it happens in the first couple of seconds. He gets gored by a bull.
Oh dear.
Yeah, quite unfortunate. And back in mainland England, as this clearly was not. There is a party going on in a house which is owned by Helena Bonham Carter, and her lovely daughter, who goes by a ridiculous name that I can't even remember because it's so ridiculous, who is excellent, and they have rented
played by Mia McKenna Bruce. Yeah.
Played by Mia McKenna Bruce, who I now officially think is absolutely marvellous.
Yeah.
Having first come across her in the first episode of The Witcher, which is still yes. So in this house that is sort of being used for a big party and for a weekend away of training for Foreign Office people, a young man dies in somewhat mysterious circumstances, and he is somebody whom she is rather fond of, and in dealing with the grief of it all, she discovers a letter written by him that includes mention of 7 dials. And off she goes, because it is said that he has committed suicide, and she does not believe for a second this would be the case, because he was clearly planning on proposing to her. And it seems like a strange thing to do 2 days before you're planning on proposing to somebody. So off she goes, enlisting other people who were at the party, who are friends, and working out what this mystery to do with 7 dials is, which, it could be clocks, it could be the place in London, it could be all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It is I found it a very well put together series. I really enjoyed it. In contrast, my parents both watched it, and my dad made it to the end, didn't like it, and my mother made it through the first episode and didn't like it and won't go back. So, and we do not have the same viewing preferences, but that's I felt was quite an extreme reaction. I found it really enjoyable. It was, obviously it doesn't need to be seen in the cinema because it's not available in the cinema. It's a 3-part series, which is absolutely perfect to watch on the sofa and sort of immerse yourself in, quite beautiful scenery. It's well shot. It's a very good cast. I found the pace went quite well.
So there's something to do is like whenever I hear Agatha Christie, and you sort of female protagonist and everything like that, there is a temptation to write it off as Sunday afternoon fare. So with this being Netflix, is it anything more than Sunday afternoon fare?
No, probably not. But not in a bad way. It's not failing itself by not being more than Sunday afternoon fare. It's it's not got you hanging off the edge of your seat, but it's Agatha Christie, which is not intended to have you hanging off the edge of your seat. Reading the books isn't hanging off the edge of your seat. It's beautifully paced writing that leads you through a mystery in not quite a formulaic way, because they're not formulaic, and yet you can follow the path that it's the waves and the ebbs of the resolution, and this achieves that, I found, very nicely. It adds a little bit of appropriate levels of tension given murder, but but also and uncertainty and a touch of danger and all that jazz. But I really liked it.
All right. So how many stars are we talking?
I am going to go 3.75.
3.75 out of 5. So 3.75. If you didn't hear earlier, go back a little bit and you hear about this graduation system, how there's 3 stops between each whole number of how a film could go, because sometimes things are a little bit elevated or demoted. Right, cool. So 3.75 for Agatha Christie's The Seven Dials Mystery, to give it its full title, on Netflix. And now we come to cinema again, and we are going to talk Primate. And this is the one that yes, I mean, Sean's kind of like been hinting and been spoiling what he thinks about this film for like 2 weeks now. So Sharon, tell us what this film's about.
Primate, yes, a classic secret screaming affair. Something that when you hear the word primate, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be about
an ape
or a monkey running amok. And this time is a chimpanzee.
Okay.
And before we get to the chimpanzee running amok, we have a little bit of setup.
Yeah.
So it's not just any chimpanzee. This is a chimpanzee that has been raised in a family by a doctor who studies primate behavior, and to sort of see if they can to understand what language, what communication skills. And this is a particular chimpanzee who has got its own little computer and has been taught how to express itself sort of verbally. So it presses a button and it says, Shawnee, what was the name of the chimpanzee?
Do you know? I can't.
Ben.
Ben.
Was it Benny? Ben
might have been something like that.
So far, sounds quite a lot like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but
and so every now and then it's sort of like that, Ben happy or Ben sad or Ben angry, which comes in handy later on.
It reminds me of what's it called? The Congo.
Something
Congo. Congo.
Yeah.
Mighty Joe Young as well, sort of similar things, but that sort of thing. Yeah, so this is they've tested this chimpanzee, and so it has the intelligence of a small child. Basically, that's what they tend to say, that they're much more intelligent and they have a much more sort of communication skills than we thought.
Yeah.
And then, but poor old chimpanzee is he? Well, no, I won't get that, but yeah, he's living on Hawaii with his family. He has he was living with this sort of classic sort of nuclear family, mum, dad, and 2 girls. Sadly, the mother has died recently of breast cancer, and there's sort of the family in grief. One of the old daughters was away at university, so she's back on her summer vacation, and she's come home, and she's brought some friends with her to have a bit like a sort of, to console her, but to keep her company, but also to sort of celebrate the breaking up of that sort of at the end of her sort of school holiday. So there's a little bit going on at home. There's been this sort of tragedy. And then amongst all this, and her father is profoundly deaf, so he only communicates through ASL,
sign language.
But he's a gifted writer. He's a sort of skilled, and he's a very
I mean, this seems like a lot of storyline for something where we've all shown up to see, like, an ape go mad.
Yeah, so this is all like the build-up, so that we're invested now. We're invested. This is not just any chimpanzee. These are not just any people. They've got, We're invested in them emotionally. And then poor old monkey, poor old ape, chimpanzee, gets bitten by a rabid mongoose. And then
as you do in Hawaii,
he becomes rabid. And then he does what comes naturally to rabid chimpanzees, which is run amok and doing nasty things to people.
So it's also like Cujo.
And so then the people who are having all these nasty things done to them then respond really illogically, as you would. So if you hear screaming in that part of the house, it's safe to say that where the screaming is probably where the chimpanzee is going to be. So let's take the opportunity, while there's that screaming going on there, should we just go and phone the police or so, phone some help? No, let's just wait here until he's finished killing that person, then he turns up, and then he can start chomping on us. So it's just like, really?
I love seeing a film with Sharon. I love it when I go see a film with Sharon.
But you think, like, just think about this, people. They're all screaming and shouting. And maybe that's where the darn rabid chimpanzee is. But no, let's just wait here. Let's just wait. See if he comes back here. Because, because.
Yeah. So this is why I like to see a film with Sharon, because Sharon gives me, because I'm just like,
validation.
Validation, and we get a look between us. And what Sharon was saying about the one point, Sharon's really, really observant, and like talking about the Ben happy. But there's one thing on this pad that you're just like, Sharon said to me, we sort of looked at each other, and it was like, they wouldn't have that on the pad. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so it's a bit nonsensical, really. Sharon explained the whole story. It's a bit bloody, or they try to. I think that's the shock factor they're trying to, But let's be honest. The really annoys me when it's like the old adage of knock somebody off or knock someone out. Make sure they don't get back up again. Why don't you just make sure you're in that advantage? You've got that advantage. For God's sake, just make sure. Don't just run off.
You can always tell though when someone's out, when you're all the cameras lined up. So it's a bit like Acorn Antiques, isn't it? Where it's like this really strange angle of the camera, and you've got your main protagonist, but then you can still see, your dead monster, your dead villain.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, well, why are they still? And then it's like, oh, we're all going to be looking that way, and then
And the cannon fodder, the stuff that's going to come in, the old extras that are going to suddenly turn up and be absolutely pathetically dumb when they,
It's a bit like one of the things that gets me in films is like, you always know whenever a car is about to hit another car side on coming like through, when they have that shot where the driver's driving and they can see through the driver's window and then the driver looks away at something else in the car, they're going to get smacked into.
They're going to get hit.
yeah, one of those
start doing something for a very long time over here. And it's
why would you do that? Why would you go into a place where there's no way you can get out of? Do you know what I mean? It's like, of all the places,
very, very isolated. No neighbours.
No way out.
It's almost like an infinity pool. And it's just all these sort of things combined to go like, wherever. If you're going to have a rabid chimpanzee anywhere, this would not be the place to have a rabid chimpanzee running about.
Ideally nowhere. No, let's avoid the rabid chimpanzees.
The
thing I was thinking about most though is like, well, I took one look at the house and probably everyone's going, what an amazing house. But I saw it and I was thinking, I bet they get so many spiders in that house, It's like surrounded by deep jungle, and I was like, whatever the equivalent is in sort of Hawaii. But I was thinking, I bet they get spiders in that house.
Okay, cool. So with this, 2 questions. First of all, this seems like a bit of a. It seems a bit like a mean-spirited thing to make a rabid chimpanzee who doesn't really have a choice the bad guy in a film. And I don't know. The question I want to ask, I think, is probably going to be too much of a spoiler. Then the second one is, how many stars would you give it?
2.5.
Yes,
I think this is everything you would expect from a rabid chimpanzee film.
It's quite funny, really. We'll talk to that when we say.
On that basis, I would probably give it a 2.5. It lived up to its promise.
Okay. I love that. I love the fact that you say promise with like a sort of like with a sort of snigger. You're like, a promise. There wasn't much to begin with, and the fact that even while you were describing the film, Sean was already like, oh my god.
I remember that bit.
I'm rocking backwards and forwards, giggling like a small child.
As for watching this on cinema or streaming, I would say this is probably one you would want to watch at the cinema with a bunch of people. I mean, you saw that a couple of times I've been to the cinema this week, they've been shown trailers for it, and one was of the audience, like an audience watching the film and all squeaking and jumping and So
it's probably a funny, if you wanted to have a fun night out.
If you want to have a fun night out, I think you go and see it with a bunch of
that
people.
Sort of thing you would probably
see with a bunch of people who are just going to spend a lot of time ripping it into it. So okay, so I have I'm part of like a group on Facebook called Film Buffs or something like that, and somebody posted the poster of this film and just simply said the killings were brutal, but the story was boring. That was it. That's the review.
Enough said.
Someone called Ray Camacho just says that. Okay, cool. So 2.5 stars for Primate. And Sean says go see it in the cinema. Sean and Sharon both say go see it in the cinema. Right, and now we go to Fieldpost. So
Fieldpost.
So Sean, Fieldpost, this is you on Prime.
I mean, okay, so this film basically is about late on in the war, and it's
World War II.
Yeah, World War II. So
I know you watched The Tank, which was a German film. Is this a German film or an American film?
It's a German film as well.
Okay, cool. All right.
So, and it's all about really. So there's a thing called the Kurland pocket, which was a pocket of Latvians fighting for the Germans, and they're surrounded. The Russians have got them completely surrounded, and the only way they can get news out or in is to write a letter. So it's all about this post office, if you like. So the post office thing you've got a group of soldiers, and they get into certain situations. They go out on patrols, they go everywhere else, but then they go behind the lines and they say, "Oh, can you take our fit?" So it's all sort of done through letters. So it's so that's basically it's a World War II thing. It's like I would say it's similar to a World War I film, where it's like takes place in a small area and there's trenches.
Oh, like in a trench.
Yeah, so it's a bit like The Trench or 17 or something like that. So it's very similar with that, but obviously up to World War II. And that's basically the story. And then the story ends where the captain calls them all together and he says, I can only send back. We're going to send one lot back, but I can only sort of send 7 people. So they have to give them to the NCOs to decide which ones go. So they're all going through to see.
So is this set within the sort of post office?
No. It's set in the pocket, in the actual pocket itself. But whenever they go back to get supplies or to get food or anything, they take everyone's letters. So people give them letters and say go. And they also read the letters as well. So, and obviously at the end, everybody says, "Oh, can you take these letters out? Can you get these?" So obviously the mail's getting out. I mean, this is a thing that goes back to Prussia, so it's a really big thing to do with the Germans, and so that's basically the story. Now, it's really, really authentic equipment and uniforms and everything. Just like pucker.
If you know, this is another thing that Sean goes about. Sean, if Sean's watching a World War II movie, he's spending as much time looking at the background and looking at the props and looking at the setting to make sure that everything is right and make sure that all the bell buckles are period specific, as he is wondering whether people are actually acting properly.
So there's obviously a lot of thought put into this, because there's a big variety of weapons, obviously captured Russian weapons, which Sharon will probably know because she quite likes World War II stuff.
Yeah.
But the only issue I sort of had with this a little bit was I thought I don't think it was dubbed. I couldn't see it looked English, but they can do clever things these days.
Yeah, they can.
But for me, I don't know, the acting was a bit amateurish. So, I mean, I quite liked the story. I liked the equipment, some of the situations. There wasn't that much action, but the action that there was quite good. But for the actual acting itself, some people, I know it sounds funny, a bit like the lad in the Bone Temple. I don't know, it just wasn't convincing. It didn't convince me, if you know what I mean. I mean, it was good. Yeah. But it was like an amateur. It was a bit amateurish, I thought.
Well, that is. I think. Well, because this is a German film. If it's like The Tank, and because The Tank was well dubbed, but it was dubbed. It was dubbed from originally was in German and was dubbed into English. And I feel like there is something to do with that. And I think I put it down to the voice actors who do the dubbing, because there's some times when for me, I feel like the voice doesn't sound like it's coming out of that character.
Yeah.
And so the dubs. So that's why sometimes I prefer to watch the subtitle version. Give me the original language of the subtitles.
Me too.
Because then I think then the voice fits the character, the urgency and everything does and everything. Like there's something I like watching, which is
gives it a bit more authenticity, doesn't it?
100%.
It doesn't matter if it's Chinese or Korean.
Yeah. There's a Japanese show I like watching called One Punch Man, and there's a dubbed version in like with American accents and everything like that. And I've tried listening back and forth, and I'm just kind of been like, it feels like a different show when you have the American dubbed thing. It just doesn't sound like that's right. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to assess the performance when it's dubbed. So I think that might be where you think it feels a bit.
That's a good observation. That's a good observation, Toes. You're pretty smart at thinking.
Oh yeah, I'm full of them. Yes, thank you very much.
that could be part of the reason why it felt that way. You might have hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I mean, Spike in the Bone Temple doesn't really have any option because he was speaking English. It was in English. So
yeah.
So, but with that, how many stars would you give Fieldpost?
Okay, so for the authenticity, I really, really like the authenticity. It wasn't, amazing thing or anything like that. So this is going to get a straight 3.
Okay, good. 3. I was going to say down the middle 3, but nowadays with that new thing, I mean, 3 is a little bit higher than down the middle. Down the middle is a 2.5. I'm like, it's just a little bit higher than down the middle. All right, cool. And now we go back to cinemas, and I'm going to talk about the voice of Hind Rajab. Now, this film, I'm going to come out straight away and say is harrowing. This film is harrowing, but it's one of those films that you think it is harrowing, but I think people should see it, and I'm glad that it exists. So this film, it happens almost entirely in the offices of the Red Crescent. And the Red Crescent, if nobody knows what they are, they're like the Red Cross, but they're Muslim. So it's like Red Crescent, and like, from Muslim countries, they come together and they come to areas of disaster. And this is set in Gaza. It's set in Gaza and is based on a true story. And it is a film that I essentially pretty much had to desensitize and kind of detach to even watch this film. Because the story is that Hind Rajab is a 6-year-old girl, and in real life, who got trapped in a car that had been shot to pieces in Gaza. And she got trapped in a car, and she phoned up it transpires that over the phone, she ends up on the phone to the Red Crescent saying, "Come help me, I'm in a car." And it transpires that everybody else in this car is dead but her. And over 7 hours, what this film goes. This film goes into the attempt to rescue her and what has to happen and the bureaucracy people have to go through, and then the guy who's in charge of the office, and they have a guy who is just kind of like, we need to help her right now. It's kind of like the trailblazer yelling at his boss, and his boss is like, I can't do that because I need to go speak to these people, I need to speak to the Red Cross, who go speak to the Israeli army, who go speak to the defense force and everything like that, and then they can give us a route, and before they can give us a route, then they have to give us a green light before we can send an ambulance in there, because if we send an ambulance in there without all these things happening, the ambulance will get blown up, and I have lost too many aid workers. And that's essentially what's happening throughout this film. And the thing that what they do in this film is that everything you hear from the girl who's in the car, you never see the girl, you only ever hear her voice, but these are the actual recordings that they had. So they actually use the actual recordings of the girl in the film. And then all the actors are acting opposite the girl's actual voice in this film. I mean, it's seeing as this is a story set in Gaza and all that. I don't think it's a spoiler to say it doesn't end well. It does not end well, but I mean it is, and there's multiple times. I feel like especially because of Gaza and everything like that, there's going to be propaganda that's going to be sent out there on both sides. And whenever you're watching anything, you have to be asking yourself, who's telling me this story? Why are they telling me this story? What are they trying to make me feel? But I felt like this walked that tightrope of trying to just pretty much document and just give you like, there's bits where they slip into, like, you have the actors doing it, but there's bits where they keep slipping into like video of the actual people who did this to show you what they did and show you like how faithful the recreation is. But it's almost as if it's trying to point out like, no, this is a recreation. this is the real thing. This is actually what happened. And what it makes you think is just how crazy the whole thing is, and how much that, you know, you have all this stuff. People are trying to save a 6-year-old girl who is pretty much begging for someone to come help her on the phone. And they're like, we can't do it because X, Y, Z. And the performances are brilliant. The performances are brilliant in that what they bring to you and what they actually sort of like, you know, try and put across. And like whether there's one particular scene where somebody just gets so overwhelmed and everybody's asking for him for something. He just goes and locks himself in the toilet and he says, I am not coming out until something happens. And then it's one of the most touching things that in the middle of all these things, they just start playing a video game. And it's kind of like, almost kind of like this is pointless, this is futile, why are we even doing this? But we need to keep trying to do it because, and then there's once when somebody accuses somebody else and says, it's because of you, people like you, that we are occupied. And I just thought this was a brilliant film. I thought it was a great film. I ended up in the cinema, which someone else who I knew was in the cinema, although I didn't know until I saw him at the end. And he was like, he just turned up not knowing what film there was and just said, oh, I'll see the next thing that's going to be on. And he went to watch it and he came out going, oh my God, that was a bit intense. And I think, yes, it is intense. It is harrowing. It is something that I don't know if I'll ever watch again. But it's something that I think I'm really happy it exists. I think it's Tunisia's entry for the Oscars for best film now in the English language. But I would say, and I would give this a...
Go for it, Toes. Go for it. This really, I can see that this is...
I'm going to say 4.5.
Right.
I'm going to say 4.5. I mean, I think if I was going to go with... If I was going to go with the emotion of it and everything like that, I would say it's a 5 because you walk out of it and you just kind of go, the recreation is brilliant. It really gets the point across. The fact that they use the girl's voice without trying to recreate it and everything, I just think it's a perfect approach to the subject matter. But I would say 4.5, not quite a 5. I don't know quite yet why. But I'll say not quite a 5. It almost feels a bit stupid to be rating something like this when you think about the subject matter of it. And as to whether you see it in the cinema, I would say yes. I would say yes, go see it in the cinema because I don't think it would be as immersive at home. I don't think it would be as, you know, leaving you alone with your thoughts to just go, oh my God, what the hell, at home. So 4.5 stars for The Voice of Hind, Rajab. And now we go to the final, and I got through that without crying, so that's good.
I nearly didn't. I'm damp-eyed here, so.
Yeah. Essentially, make sure you're in the right mood before you go see this film because it might destroy you. Right, the Salt Path scandal. Let's go with that. I don't have to talk. Short. I mean, Sharon, holy, take this away.
Sharon start and I'll mush that.
Oh yeah, so basically, The Salt Path was a best-selling book, publicised as a memoir.
Novel, an interesting choice of words.
It's a best-selling memoir about a story of a woman and her husband who lose their home and become homeless, and they decide to walk the southwest coastal path of Great Britain. So around from Somerset across the top of Somerset into Devon, into Cornwall, and then rounding back, doing quite a feat of endurance. And just before this sort of feat of endurance, they find out that Moth, the husband, has been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and they're in this dreadful situation. So they decide to walk, and through walking, he is given like a new vitality. And they've found a new appreciation of life and everything in it. And it was a deeply affecting book. Led to 2 sequels, one called The Wild Silence, another one called Landslines, and has then led to a very popular film, enormously popular. When I went to see it, it was cool. Starring Gillian Anderson and
Jason Isaacs.
And it was at every stage along the story, it's been shown as like this is the remarkable powers of nature to heal, and of like how people like this sort of catharsis through nature, how you go through these traumas, but there's nature then is there, like there's like the Mother Earth, that sort of thing. So, and the salt path is symbolic, as in like you are salt, weathers you, but it preserves and it enhances flavor, and it's like multi things. So there's lots of symbolism in it. And then there's all this revelation in the newspaper that maybe this memoir wasn't as accurate as it was portrayed.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the things that were shown as facts may not be quite so factual. And then the documentary called The Salt Path Scandal is a documentary that was made by the actual journalist who was alerted to maybe some of the inconsistencies in these books, to say, well, actually, I am that person who is in the book. And I remember them visiting me, but that is not what happened. And then other people have said, well, actually, I think I am the person they talk about in this scene. I think that is me, but that did not happen in that way, because, there's a scene in a cafe and the person says, like, well, I work in that cafe, and that's not how that cafe works, or how the people react to people in the cafe. So people are saying, well, actually, I think, and so she's built up a body of evidence basically to say, actually, we think the salt path is not just stretching the truth, we think he's actually lying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that there's a lot of what this person has claimed to be factually we can provide evidence to say that these events and this diagnosis is one of the key things, that this diagnosis that her husband got, if he has survived 15 years from his terminal diagnosis, then he is the longest lived person who's ever to have been diagnosed with that. Yeah. The average life expectancy is like 7 years or 8 years, and this is like 15 years after the alleged diagnosis. So they're saying that this is medically impossible, or he's a miracle.
He's a medical breakthrough.
And if I might add, at that point, they'd say that if this is the medical miracle that it is alleged to be, why has it not been published? Which I thought, a good touch. This should be all over all of the journals, and it is in none. So there were all of these pullouts where not only were they saying, this is my experience and it's not fact, but this is not what I think, this person is me or whatever. There's this, not just is this medically impossible, but all of the things that would sit around it being medically possible. Should it have happened, because medical miracles theoretically can.
Okay, could I just check? This is on Sky Documentaries, right?
It is. Yes. But it was. I think Sharon has summarised it very effectively and beautifully, as always.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Really good at this. You don't ramble. It is just so. It just sort of punches all the way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's okay, because I remember when the film Salt Path came out. I mean, Sharon, you watched that and you reviewed this on the show. Yeah. And I remember that you were quite taken with it because it was really kind of like in your wheelhouse, so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's nature, it's people going for a walk.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it, and that healing power of like sort of nature. And not that I'm new age in any way at all, or shape or form, but you do want to feel like that healing power of just being that salt air, like weathering and preserving, and
you want to believe that that's true.
That's true, and I think that's why we feel, but why we feel the readership feels betrayed by it in some ways. It's like one. And again, what I find was interesting, I did feel like a sense of betrayal. So I was thinking, oh no, I've been taken for a ride, basically. Yeah. I read the book, was moved by the book, and watched the films, was moved by the book. And I get the feeling that Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs, who made the film, were like completely invested in it, that this was telling the truth.
Yeah.
But then what I thought was interesting about this documentary, they asked like the publishers or those people in the publishing world who'd be willing to speak, say, when someone comes to you with a memoir, how much fact checking do you do? What do you do? Any sort of, do you do any sort of verifying of it? And they basically say, well, not really. If it's someone's experience or it's their written word, then you tend to very much just go with what. Well, that was the impression I got. But did you agree, Holly, that they would tend to be like saying, like, well, actually, if someone writes a memoir, we tend to like sort of edit it for to make it more readable, but we don't actually check it for veracity.
I think if they're being honest, when someone writes a memoir, we look at this and we think, "Ooh, how much money can we make out of this before anybody finds out if it's true or not?"
Well, I mean, this is their truth. It's a terribly current expression of the last few years and ongoing.
And how much money can we make out of this truth? So from what you guys are saying, from this documentary, you both think this documentary is convincing that the salt path isn't entirely true.
Yes, it was convincing enough for me to go.
Yeah. Are you able to bleep? Are you able to bleep? Are you able to bleep words out if we say them?
Yes, I am. Yes, I might not even bother.
Well, I call complete and utter bullshit on it. They are dishonest people. They show every appearance. Sorry, let's just avoid being, scurrilous. They show every appearance of being dishonest people, and that makes it a very sad thing to watch in many ways, because it takes advantage of the goodness and kindness of other people.
And the willingness to believe something.
I think part of it is that you want to believe it, and then because because people want to be uplifted and to be inspired by these stories, and to think that actually. Yeah, and then I think, but what's heartbreaking was some people who have had that diagnosis have thought, if I just,
go for a walk along the salt path,
sort of take myself back there, and then they find that they're obviously debilitated, or it just doesn't, and that this spark of hope that they had has just been snuffed out.
Yeah. It's a false hope. So how many cruelty to people, really, to do that, to say you can achieve a thing that you absolutely have not achieved, and you probably know is the case as well.
Yeah.
So how many stars would you give the Salt Path Scandal?
I would give a 4. I think, or maybe 4.25. I think, because I think it's elevated. I think it's what journalism should be. It's like tackling a story that nobody really wanted, because no one wanted to sort of burst the bubble of this, because it was such a phenomenon, really. And on the tails of such a popular film, I think for journalists to come along and say, actually, I'm actually saying nonsense to this. I think it's what journalism should be. It's like in the face of opposition, in the face of your better judgment almost, and just going, oh, okay, and then just keep pushing, and the more you push, the more you find out, and then but not flinching from people when people say, no, why are you bothering with this? It's like, no, we need to, if someone's telling the truth, then their truth, it needs to be cry shame on these people if they are doing this. So I think for me, definitely a 4.25, maybe higher, because I think it needed doing.
All right, cool, good stuff.
I think I'm going to therefore stick to my usual positions. I'm going to give it a 4.5. I thought exactly that. It was so well constructed. It was brave. That's a weird thing to say about something like that, but brave journalism for something that is so close to people's hearts, and such a heartbreaking thing to have to. Heartbreaking thing, as in
have to debunk.
Sorry. Yes, 4.5.
All right, cool. So that is it, 4.375 for the Salt Path Scandal on Sky Documentaries. And now the only question that is left is, who do you think has won this week? And before you make your deliberations, I will let you know that there is 0.2 of a star between a winner and a loser this week.
I was going to say it's very, very close, isn't it? Very close. It's the closest we've had for a while, which is good. But I think I'm going to have to say, I think Primate probably dragged down Cinema a little bit, so I could be wrong. I'm going to take a punt for Streaming's one this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you are all unanimous in saying you think it's Streaming.
Yeah.
And the numbers agree with you. It is Streaming by 0.2 of a star. That Streaming takes it this week. Yes, Primate did just sort of hold it below it, but it sounds like one of those things where I feel like you guys had a better experience watching the film than you thought the film was, if you get what I mean. Like, I often talk about the fact that one of the best film watching experiences I ever had was watching Best of the Best 3. And so those of you who even know about Best of the Best as a series were probably shocked to find out it got to a 3. So by the time it got to the 3, you knew you were talking like straight to video stuff. But the fact that there was just a whole bunch of us sitting down watching this thing and ripping it out of this film, you just walked out going, "Oh, that was good. Let's find another terrible film to watch."
These are the sort of films, if I go and see with Sharon, is really good because we get like a knowing look. You know, when you can have a know, like if something happens in a film, both sort of look at each other like that and roll their eyes, go, really? And that's great. That we like that.
I was going to say one of my most memorable.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
so one of my most memorable film experiences was 50 Shades of Grey, where somebody was walking down the staircase. He may have had a couple too many glasses of something or other and fell down the stairs. So that is an all-time cinema moment, and that film is terrible.
But at least it gave you that memory. All right, cool. So please do find us online and let us know what your thoughts are, where you think whether you should watch something in the cinema, where you should wait until it gets into streaming, what you thought about every individual thing we spoke about. It will be up on our YouTube channel. Look for us, just Netflix via Cinema. Find us on Instagram, Netflix via Cinema Pod, and there's probably some other place that we are. Yeah, Facebook if you're still there, Netflix via Cinema. Find us, let us know what you think. We love to hear from people. But until next week when we shall see something else.
I don't know what's on. I mean, I'm not sure there's too much on, is there?
Me neither. I cannot think about it, and I'm just trying to. Yeah. Anyway, until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
Okay, goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me and from Max.
And from Max, the cat that shows up on screen. Thank you very much for joining us.